Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Movie Deputy Reviews, where we are bringing you another movie today that we are going to be talking about. This one opened on October 17th, as you can see on the poster there. I'm slowly figuring out the whole direction to point on that. Trying to figure out how to get the blue glare off my glasses. Still trying to figure that one out a little bit. You're probably noticing something new if you are watching our video feed, as we now have this QR code right here. This QR code is actually tied to the movie. So if you can see the poster right here next to me, the movie that we are talking about today is Truth and Treason. It is another Angel Studios picture. That was not intentional. It just kind of happened to work out that way. But the little QR code, right? I'm going to figure this out eventually. It's that one right there. But Angel Studios does this amazing thing where if you scan the QR code over here, you have the opportunity to pass it on. You have the opportunity to purchase tickets for somebody that would maybe want to go see the movie but can't afford to. And they do this with pretty much all of their films. And it's the pass it on. And it also gives you access to a limited series that's available only through Angel Studios and kind of things like that are kind of all tied together. And it's an amazing thing that they do. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, whether or not now or later, or maybe you're going to wait to see what you think of the movie first, which, that's all valid. That's all great. But the QR code right here is going to be what you take your smartphone and you open up the camera and you aim it at the QR code and it'll pull up a little web link for you. And it doesn't link anything to do with Movie Deputy. It has nothing to do with Movie Deputy. It goes purely to Angel Studios for that. And I don't get anything for that or anything. I just wanted to pass it on because it's such an amazing program that they do with that. Now, a couple of you are probably going to be really turned off when you see this poster over here. Why is that? Okay, if you're just listening to the audio part of this, then you're probably like, okay, what's so controversial about it? Well, it shows a young man and he has a scarf across his mouth and there's a swastika right in the middle of it. And like I said, the title of the movie is Truth and Treason. So if you can even kind of gather a little bit just based on the poster here, that it's going to be pretty much based on truth and treason. And a lot of times speaking up in Nazi Germany was a treasonous act. Speaking anything against Hitler was a treasonous act. And it was just... This story goes really deep. I will say right up front, I am giving this movie a guilty rating. Not because it's anything inappropriate or anything like that, but because though very factual and very real, that's why it's also getting a guilty rating. It's very factual and very real, and you witness things that happen to people who weren't afraid to tell the truth, and the punishments that they endured and the severity of those leading to the ultimate. And don't worry, no spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. This is based on a true story, and it does, if you sit through this movie and you get all the way into the credits, you're going to want to sit through through the beginning part of the credits, because it explains the true stories of the four main individuals that this movie is about. And it moves you. You feel this. It's like you're just drawn into this. This is one of those ones that it almost makes you sick to watch it in a way, because it's so intense while it's happening. You're not just watching things happening on the screen. You're watching history. Like I said, these are things that actually happened. This is history. History is not supposed to make you feel good and just sense and sensibilities. It's not supposed to just cater to what makes you feel good. It's there to teach us, and those who fail to learn history are doomed to repeat it. And we need to take something away from stories such as this, not just the basic story in itself, but the meaning behind the story, like what was so important in this story. And there are comparisons to things with faith as well as things in the movie. And obviously, since it's Angel Studios, they figured out a way to kind of work that together. But that was also a real big part of the lives of the people in this movie. Now, Hubert, he's basically the main person that this is about. That's actually him in the poster, not the actual person, but the gentleman playing him, the actor. And that is who is, like I said, he's on the poster with that. but he was actually Mormon. And it kind of goes into a little bit of that. And people are like, okay, but that may not apply to me. It doesn't matter your religion. Truth matters regardless of the religion. And that's another message that it kind of goes into with this. But I want to go ahead and share the trailer with you here before we get too far into this. And I will just stop the trailer when necessary and make some commentary on that. But let's jump in and check that out. Let's watch it with me. See if I get it. There it goes. Now, I'm going to stop it right here, right off the bat. You probably heard that, like that scratchy sound of the radio. In Nazi Germany, it was illegal to have a radio. You could not listen to the radio. You could only listen to very specific, very approved stations that the Nazis had approved of that people could listen to. And Hubert had gotten a hold of a radio and he was listening to the BBC. And that's kind of some of the secrecy that's just in the very beginning of this. So that, though it just seems like just a blip moment in this part of the trailer, that becomes a really big part of the movie.
Hitler's twisting the truth beyond recognition. Straight off the wire, we report the truth, not the propaganda spoon-fed to you by your leaders. Gestapo terror must not remain unatoned.
And there's going to be things like that scene, like I said, if you're watching the video with us, the scene that was just showing was people being shoved into rail cars. And if anybody knows anything about, or if you know anything about World War II, you know that was a big part of it when the people were shipped off to Dachau and Auschwitz and Treblinka and the rest of the camps and everything along with that. And it was just absolutely nightmarish, but it was nowhere near as horrible for the Germans as it was for the Jews. And you probably saw the thing where even the poster was being written up just a moment ago in the trailer. It said Jews forbidden to enter. And even in churches and stuff, they had to put up these signs and they had to put up these barricades and barriers to keep Jews out of anything of worship. And even if you weren't a Jew yourself, so one of the characters in this movie, he's a Mormon, but because his mother was half Jew, he is still forbidden from participating in the church services, even though he is not Jewish himself. And so that's just another important, it's just kind of how it breaks apart things that are it's not necessarily just black and white. And a lot of people don't realize that so much of this stuff was going on. And it all plays such a big role as to what's going on here. But I want you to remember as we're going through this, that truth is the ultimate, regardless of your religion, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of anything else. The truth matters the most. And there was somebody else who really led with truth in everything he did, and that was Jesus. So that also, like I said, that kind of plays a big part in this, and that's one of the things that Hubert really, I'm totally mispronouncing his name. I know that, so my apologies on that.
This concludes our broadcast for this evening.
Can you keep a secret?
I thought I would write the truth.
Yeah, I keep mispronouncing his name, but Helmuth, not Hubert. I might, so my deepest apologies on that.
Hitler's false halo has fallen. See the little man for what he is, a murderous charlatan.
We can make thousands of leaflets.
A man finds one in his mailbox, reads it.
He passes it to a friend at work, who passes it to another, and another, and another.
Look what I found.
Imagine the power in those notes, taking what Helmuth was putting out there. Again, forgive me, I totally had mispronounced the name off the beginning of this. But like he said, you pass these notes and you take this note of truth. And those watching the video with me saw that one of the biggest things that the note said was "down with Hitler." And that took a lot of guts to be able to put that out there. That took a lot of guts to be able to really lead with that and just do that. But one person gets a hold of it, and then they pass it on to somebody else, and they pass it on to somebody else. And think of the power that has.
Looking at a little red leaflet which calls the fear of the great deceiver of the people.
And enough people find out what's really going on and stand up. Put an end to it. I'm in.
We can change things. You just have to take the first step.
Okay, this was part of the movie. It has nothing to do with the movie itself. It just happened that I paused that on a weird moment right there, so my apologies. But in a very early scene in this movie, it shows the boys having fun by jumping off of a railroad bridge down into the water. Now, anytime I see something like this in a movie, I try to somewhat address it or bring it up. Hi, Rora. One of the kitties just came into the office with me. But this is such a dangerous thing to do. It's like, if you want to jump off of something and jump into the rivers, please stay off of railroad bridges. My husband works in the transportation industry, and people have no idea how dangerous this type of thing is and how many lives are lost. Like I said, it has really nothing to do with the movie, but please, if you're at all inclined, please look up Operation Lifesaver. It's really important.
It must be stated that his treasonous actions are inexcusable.
There it is. Jew.
I think it's just a matter of time now. I could hide you. Mr. Big Shot Resistance Fighter. You can't even talk to that girl at work.
Careful, you never know who's watching.
You know what happens if they catch you.
You thought this through before you planned your little coup, right?
Are you trying to get us all killed?
I'm not afraid to die. Hitler knows that we begin to see through him.
And that was one thing that Hitler probably feared the most, was that of the people rising up against him, the people daring to speak the truth. So he had to do everything in his power to silence them. And with Helmuth, what he did, and his last name is Hubener, so that's, I think, one of the reasons I was getting it confused there. So again, my apologies. But with what Helmuth really did, he challenged all the ideas. He had a contraband radio. He had a contraband typewriter, things that he wasn't supposed to have. And he took these chances. And what is so incredible about all of this is he's a child. He was 17 when all of this was happening. So, like I said, it's amazing what one person can do and how that can spread. Just like I said, from it being one person. I know, and he wasn't the only one that did this. Helmuth wasn't the only one that was helping to do this. But this is just one story out of so many, and it's too important not to share.
The truth will prevail.
Back over here. It just, like I said, it is just too important of a story not to tell, not to share. And it's difficult. There are parts of this movie that are difficult to watch. There are things that are happening to Helmuth and to his friends and to the people that he is close to. And he tries so hard to continue his mission, even when the Nazis have basically caught up to him and are intervening and stopping him from doing what he's doing. And that contraband typewriter of his was one of the things that kind of helped bring him down. It was just a pure chance that we all have fingerprints and we all have certain things that are identifiable. Well, certain typewriters and stuff do too. This one had something very particular, and I won't spoil what that is, but this one had something very particular about it that kind of helped point to the thing. And when everything caught up to them, and when they were caught, or specifically when Helmuth was caught, he had sworn to his friends that he would not give them up no matter what, that he would stand strong. And it just got to be enough that where he had to say something, because it was going to cost him his mother, and some of the other people closest to him. And so reluctantly, he had to name some names. And towards the end of the movie, we get to see the trial and how that was played out. Sorry, I'm just getting emotional talking about this a little bit. And how it played out, and with the judge, and the sentencing and what happened to them. Like I said, it's explained in the credits. I won't spoil what happens to any of these ones in the movie. If you want to look it up, I'm sure you can. But this is one of those ones, like I said, that you are going to want to check out. I do want to share with you our podcast image. That is this one right here. As you see, it doesn't differ a whole lot from the poster. Oops, there we go. Again, there's the poster. And that is our podcast image for this movie. So I cropped it and just like just things that I've talked about before. Like I said, I am giving this movie a guilty rating, but the score may surprise you. The score on this one will most definitely surprise you. I am giving Truth and Treason an 8 out of 10 on the deputy scale. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, the plot is intense. Yes, I have to give it a guilty rating because of some of the content. But the story is important enough, and it is told eloquently enough that this needs to be shared. If you do get a chance to go see this in theaters, I hope you do, and I would love to know your feedback on it. If you feel so inclined that you would like to help others experience this movie that may not get to, that's, like I said, the QR code. Like I said, I will figure it out, this QR code right here. Just take a picture of it with your phones, like my phone right here. If I had my camera open, I would just boop, take a picture, click the link. Good to go with that. So, but like I said, I am giving Truth and Treason an 8 out of 10 on the deputy scale. So like I said, this is one, if you enjoy anything about history, if you like documentaries, this is not a documentary, this is a movie, but it feels like it's based off of a documentary. And since it's based off real people, that makes sense. This is just, like I said, it's too important not to pay attention to. And if you have ever had an interest in history, or you know somebody who has an interest in history, this is definitely one to recommend. So I hope that you will like, subscribe, and share this content. Please help share this movie with somebody else. And I hope to see you back again soon. Now, I didn't realize that until I was completely done the other day, that I forgot to kind of address this. With these new video formats, like I said, being kind of new to this, I am going to be doing these on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, at least to begin with. So we're not going to quite be an everyday thing quite yet, but we're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And so that's going to kind of give me a little bit of time to still kind of play around, because I figured out finally how to get the posters and the podcast image. And then I just earlier today figured out how to do the QR code and how to also input that image into it as well. It's a learning process. I'm getting there, and I'm just glad that you're along on this journey with me, because like I said before, it's going to be a heck of a ride. So thank you again, and I will be back soon. Bye.